We finally made it, guys. Time to do the final regular season preview of this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's freaking get it. All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 35, and this will be the final preview, weekly NFL preview for the year, for the 2024 NFL season. We're finally at the end. The playoffs are just around the corner, but that is not to say that the regular season is just a dud for this final week, because we got some very interesting games. Some teams still need to punch their ticket to the playoffs. We have a couple teams fighting to gain momentum. Some teams that are in the playoffs that are fighting to get the highest seed possible. We got a lot of good narratives going into this week of NFL football. But before that, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. First and foremost, as you can tell, if you didn't see the intro and you're listening to me now, you can see me on camera. Did I fix the issue with the video and audio falling out of sync? No, I did not. But did you think I came up with some type of transition plan to circumvent it? You betcha sweet pippy I did. I most certainly did. So the thing is, halfway through the video, I'm just going to cut. And that way, the first half of the video is still in sync for the most part. You can't really tell that it's going out of sync yet. And the second half will be completely in sync, theoretically. So when it comes to editing, there's going to be a little blip in the middle, and we're going to figure it out from there and see how it goes. So as I'm doing it right now, let me scroll down to my thing. How many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So after the Bears and Packers preview, let me just do that. Just typed a whole bunch of G's into the Bears and Packers thing on my screen, indicating that I need to transition. And along with that, that's enough of that. What else do I have on my list? The content plan. The official off-season content plan will be coming out on on Tuesday. When you guys see episode 36 come out, I will have an official plan. Right now, my biggest one is to do predictions versus reality. I want to do a predictions versus reality video for each NFL team. It's not going to be anything too deep, nothing too crazy. I just want to take, every NFL team, look at where they finished, and then go back and look at, where I had them finishing. Because there's a couple teams that absolutely surprised me, like the Denver Broncos. There's been some teams that have absolutely disappointed me, like the New York Jets. And then there's been some teams like the Seattle Seahawks. And I would say the Miami Dolphins. Those teams are about where I thought they would be, give or take. So it'll be interesting to go back and reflect with you guys to see where I was right, where I was wrong. And, pretty much reflect on each team, I guess. That's the only other way I can explain it. And then other than that, for content, I have ideas to maybe do reactionary content. I'll have to figure that out, because I probably would need to get a webcam and change the setting, because I couldn't do reaction content right here where I'm sitting, because I have no way of watching it and then reacting to it while having the same video on the screen for you guys. I also have to figure out copyright. I have to figure out a whole bunch of stuff if I'm going to do reactionary content. Along with that, social media is going to start taking place here soon, along with this content plan that's going to be coming out. So that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. But other than that, there's a couple more things I want to do, but I'll have to figure it out first before I officially put it into the content plan. But definitely for now, I plan to do predictions versus reality, and I plan to incorporate social media finally. I should have been doing it throughout the whole year, but honestly, I've just been working on just making the best show I can here and just doing what I can in a smaller, condensed spot before expanding. Definitely expanding could have been better, but with work and then covering all these teams and whatnot, it's a challenge. It's a big challenge, but I think I'm ready to take the next step and expand to all social media platforms like I was at the very, very beginning of the Shumake Take when I was doing it for USF. It's just a class. As you guys know, it's now a hobby, And it is a months and months long hobby that has now grown from only 6 measly subscribers, and we're up to 27 by the end of the year. By the way, Happy New Year. It is January 1st as I'm recording this video. You guys are going to see this, whether it's probably going to be early Thursday morning, maybe Thursday morning at 8 o'clock when you see it. This video, I'm probably just going to edit it, and when it's uploaded, I'm just going to let it drop because it's already technically a day late from how I want to record things normally. So it'll drop, and when you guys see it, make sure to check it out. So other than that, today's sentimental object, by the way, is this right here. It's a new water bottle. I got it for Christmas, and I absolutely love this thing. As you can see, it's got a big handle right here, so my whole hand can fit it. And this little lid or thing right here, I don't know what you would call it. I don't know what the name for it is, but it's got a straw in there. It makes a really good sippy cup, so I can easily just flip, turn, drink, and not have to tilt my water up a whole bunch and move it all around. So I can just sit there, look, and boom, take a sip of water and we're good. Hopefully that bang was not too loud. But enough of housekeeping. Let's get into recapping Monday Night Football first, where the Detroit Lions beat the San Francisco 49ers 40-34. The Lions securing a franchise record 14 wins and another franchise record for the first time in their history, going 8-0 on the road. And for the 49ers, while their fans are looking towards next year, the team itself went down without a fight. They were not going down without a fight. And this game on the 49ers end was pretty ugly in most aspects. The run game was non-existent. The defense was non-existent. But for anyone that's, a Brock Purdy supporter and believes that he should be paid after this offseason, well, here's another game where your case could be made because he had 377 yards, 3 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions, honestly, the 2 interceptions were pretty bad. Both of them were thrown to Lion safety Kirby Joseph, who's had a great year so far. Well, I say so far the entire year. We're already here, right? We're at the end. But he's had a great year. The first one that Kirby got, it was late in the third quarter. It was just an overthrown ball. Kirby Joseph picked it off. And the second one was even worse. It was late in the fourth quarter. Birdie was trying to throw it over the middle to Ricky Pearsall and just didn't see Kirby Joseph looking at it, and he jumped the route. Bam, got it. And then speaking of Ricky Pearsall, he had the best game of his young career so far. Best game of the year. 8 catches, 141 yards, a touchdown. He was getting open everywhere. He looked explosive. He looked fast. And I am so happy for this guy because first round picked 31st overall, hasn't been productive really much at all when on the field. So having him have his breakout game was awesome. But it's not that he was a first round pick that hasn't done anything. No, it's the fact that earlier in the year, if you guys remember, he got shot in the chest. He got shot in the freaking chest, came back, and he was still playing games for the 49ers. He still played over 10 games, I think, in total. I don't know what the exact, how many games the number of games he played, but I'm pretty sure it's over 10. So for a guy to go through something like that and just finish out the year and keep on playing, and then in this type of game, having 140 yards and a touchdown, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. I'm so happy that Ricky Pearsall is out there. He's playing well, and I'm wishing him the best. Hopefully he can continue his career at this trajectory. I hope this trajectory continues to go up and he continues to play even better. And then George Kittle had 112 yards off of 8 catches. He played well in this game. So it's good to see him now that he's fully healthy. He's playing. He's doing well. Obviously, one of the best tight ends in the league for a reason, and you showed it again in this game. Outside of that, there really wasn't that much more on offense. But the thing was, despite all the stuff that I mentioned, the run game not doing well, the defense not doing very well, and not a lot of explosion on the passing game. Well, I'll say this. While Pearsall and Kittle deserve their due because they went over 100 yards, Juwan Jennings had 70 yards off of 4 or 5 catches. He played well in this game. But outside of that, there really wasn't much going for it. And the thing was, they were in position to win this game. Technically, they should have won this game. But what really ultimately killed them in the end was the fact that kicker Jake Moody missed 2 field goals and an extra point. If you guys are good at math, That equates to 7 points. And looking at the final score being 40-34, if you add 7 points to the 49ers total, that would give them the win. Jake Moody has been disappointing this year, to say the least. Multiple critical games with critical missed kicks. Simply has not been his year. And Jake Moody in this game pretty much has summed up what the 49ers season has been so far. They are out of 10 losses so far. 6 of them are one-score games. There's so many games where they really felt so close. And if all those games had flipped, their record would be obviously much better. But at the same time, you look at it and they're 6-10, and this team feels very far away from the same team at the same time a year ago was ready to go compete for a Super Bowl, and a month later was in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. This team doesn't feel like that. It feels like this, again, it feels so close, but it feels so far. It's unfortunate, but when the predictions versus reality video drops with the 49ers, we'll talk a little bit more about that and talk about where I think they're going to go next year. That's another thing, too. The team previews later in the offseason, that'll happen, too. We'll save that for the content plan. So we'll save that for episode 36 once I have everything set in stone of what I want to do. But moving on to the Lions side of things. For them, I mentioned the franchise records. If you want to mention another one on offense, the Lions have become the first team in NFL history to have multiple receivers and multiple running backs go for at least 1,000 scrimmage yards. That right there is absolute insanity. Why? Because I've said all year that the Lions offense is the best in the NFL. It is fun to watch. It is creative. They have such great players everywhere. And seeing this stat right here reflects that 100%. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Jamison Williams, one of the most fastest and explosive receivers in the NFL this year. Then you look at David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the best running back duo in the NFL objectively. That's not even close as to who the best running back duo in the NFL is. It is Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Sonic and Knuckles, it is those two guys. But going into the game specifically, Jared Goff had 303 yards. He had 3 touchdowns in this game, no picks, which is also a pivotal thing for them and their success in this game. Jamison Williams had 77 yards. He had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. The receiving touchdown was amazing. It was called by Ben Johnson. Goff threw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Hook and ladder play, pitched it out to Jamison Williams, who was running up the right sideline for a touchdown. Absolutely insane play, man. Ben Johnson, it is going to be very interesting if he leaves to become the head coach of another NFL team, because over as the offseason ended or earlier in the year, like maybe a few weeks ago, I can't remember when the report came out, but the report came out that Ben Johnson, if he's going to look at head coaching candidates, they're going to be serious head coaching candidates. So my guess would be is that only a small handful of teams that will need a head coach are going to be after him. And here's the thing. If I'm Ben Johnson and you're going to be the head coach of a football team, you're gonna be in high demand. This guy is going to be probably the hottest head coaching candidate probably in the past 10, 15 years. It's insane. It's absolutely insane the type of money that he is going to get and the type of attention and demand that he is going to get. And like I said, if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going to be very careful, because you got to get to the right situation. Because if you go into the wrong organization, that's it, like for example, Chicago. Do not go to Chicago. As much as Ben Johnson is needed in Chicago because of Caleb Williams and all the weapons they have around there, there's a formula there that's kind of similar to what Detroit has built offensively. You have really good receivers, a really good tight end. You do have a running back that has talent in DeAndre Swift, although hasn't really produced all that much. But if you get another back in there to complement and go run with him, then you have a formula that's similar to Detroit's. But you are going to the Chicago Bears organization. The front office, the ownership is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And I don't know if I'm Ben Johnson if I want to go there. Maybe he does. Who knows? We'll see. But if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going to be very careful and meticulous about any head coaching position that I'm offered, because if anything that's been proved this year, especially with Chicago, is that the ownership and front office matters. And if you're not going into a position where they're going to help you succeed, don't go. Stay as the offensive coordinator. Keep on winning and competing for championships because the Lions are right there, and he has been one of the biggest factors in that happening. But going back to the game itself, Amon St. Brown had 60 yards. He had a touchdown. Sam Laporta had 64 yards and a touchdown. All three of these guys, Williams, Laporta, St. Brown, they all played great. Only two other people caught a pass in this game, but the fact of the matter was these three guys were just getting open all the time. The 49ers defense simply didn't come to play, and so why not feed these guys and continue giving the ball to your playmakers? And it's nice because the chemistry will be important. The involvement will be important because you're going up against the Vikings next week. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. Having those guys warmed up and ready to go as much as you can is absolutely pivotal for the Lions winning this game because this is probably the toughest game they've had all year long. And then the running game, Jahmyr Gibbs, 18 carries, had 117 yards and a touchdown. In David Montgomery's absence, Jahmyr Gibbs has shown that he can be a bell cow back. Maybe not a bell cow 30 carry a game back, but he can carry the rock, and he is still as explosive as ever. I thought that maybe with David Montgomery leaving, Jahmyr Gibbs' production might dip a little bit. It has literally not dipped at all. It has just been staying the constant. It has stayed great, high level. And then shout out to Craig Reynolds. He had 7 carries for 31 yards. Not a very big day statistically, but that counts for 4.1 a pop, or 4.4 a pop, excuse me. And so having a guy just be able to go in there, just take a carry here and there, let Jahmyr Gibbs take a breather, just manage him fine, boom. And it was a formula that was working. It was good. The running game was just on the, well, not a ton of carries. Obviously, between these two guys, that's 25 carries. But the yards per carry number was huge. It was high. So offensively, that's all fine and dandy. There's no worries there. Defensively, they struggled. They struggled a lot in this game. Kirby Joseph got the 2 interceptions, which gives them the edge here. But you're going up against the Vikings next week. This defense has to get healthy as soon as possible. We'll talk more about that and talk more about, that situation at the end of the show, like I said. But that is something of note here because with the defense struggling against the 49ers, the Vikings are a completely different ball game. They're a completely different team. They're a completely different ballpark. The 49ers don't even belong on the same field as the Vikings right now. So the defense has to get healthy as much as they can, but we'll talk more about it at when we get there at the end. Not the best win for Detroit as a whole, but they did get the win, and they move to 14-2, setting the franchise records that I mentioned earlier. Honestly, not the best ending to that segment, but we're going to roll with it. And going into my weekly preview for NFL Week 18, finally, I went 13-3 picking games last week, bringing my total up to 176-86. So we are right there. I realized that picking games, I was a couple games. I was behind a couple games. I guess I skipped over some at some point, but before recording this video, when I was making my script, I decided to go through each game or each week because I write it down. Like I have this little table here with the matchup, the time, who I think is going to win, and I have every week in a Word document, and after every week I mark it if I got right and wrong, right? And so I went through every week, redid the math, and so the math came out to 176-86, which equals 262, which there's 272. Wait a second. I just realized that is wrong. That is wrong. God dang it. Because there's 272 regular season games. And if there's 16 more games, that would have to be 150. So I was right the first time. Oh my God, I'm stupid. I did not do my math right. Well, I guess I'm just going to put it in the comments, or maybe put it in the description of what the official thing is. You know what? Actually, no. At this point, my picking games, I'm going to finish in the high 60%. So at this point, it's guaranteed what I'm going to finish. So for this, we'll give it a little pass. We'll figure it out. And then, at the end of the year, then I'll correct it and say, okay, here we go. And then this is what we actually finished with. But we'll just jump right in to Saturday football. We got 2 more Saturday games to conclude the season. We got the Browns traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens at 4:30. I had the Ravens winning this game because even though the Ravens, I don't think they're going to rest their starters. They might. But even if they do, honestly, Are the Browns winning this game? No, not with DTR. I just simply don't buy it. Baltimore, even with all their backups, would probably still be better than the Cleveland Browns because their depth is pretty good in most spots and their coaching is far superior. Give me the Ravens to win this game and finish out the year strong. The next game, though, 8 o'clock at night on Saturday night. The Bengals going to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. This is my number 2 game, best game of the week. And call me crazy, but I think the Bengals, the Bengals. Oh my God, that's so stupid. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have them winning this game. Now, why? Why would I have the Bengals winning this game? Well, the answer is simple, actually. They're hot. Joe Burrow is hot. And the Steelers have lost 3 straight games. And out of those 3 straight games, going into this 4th one, this is the best quarterback they're facing all year to this point. Maybe not all year. That might be a stretch. But right now, like out of Mahomes, Lamar, and Joe Burrow, out of all 3 of them, he's probably the hottest. He's probably the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now. I know that Lamar is in the MVP conversation and Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but Joe Burrow is simply, he's leading the league in passing yards, leading the league in passing touchdowns. He has been a monster this year. He's probably been the best quarterback in the NFL, arguably, if it wasn't for the fact that he was on a 1-4, 4-8 Bengals team that has been struggling all year long, and he's been putting them on his back to get them to this point. And I have the Bengals winning because of that. They're hot. I think Joe Burrow is going to continue what he does best. And for Pittsburgh, if we want to look over there for a second, this game, if you want a chance to win, you're going to have to find a way to limit Joe Burrow and slow him down and contain him. You're going to have to find a way to contain T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Mike Gesicki. You're going to have to find a way to get turnovers on defense. You're going to have to find a way to minimize and contain Joe Burrow as much as you possibly can. The Steelers defense needs to have at least a decent game to going into the playoffs, because if they have a performance like against Baltimore, like against Kansas City, and I can't remember the other team they lost to in this 3-game skid that they're on, but what was it? Oh, I can't remember what it was. No, Philly. It was Philly. That's the thing. If Pittsburgh has a bad performance against Cincinnati on defense, they're losing in the wild card round. Straight up, they're losing in the wild card round. Now, that's kind of tough to say 100% because, it's the playoffs. It's different. But you cannot go into the playoffs with 4 straight losses, or even if you win, have 4 straight horrible defensive performances. Because I can't remember. I don't know who they're possibly going up against. I haven't looked at the seeding like 100%. But you're facing they're definitely going to be the 5th seed, right? Yeah, they have the 5th seed presumably locked up, in this case with Baltimore winning. So that would give them the 4th seed, so they would play Houston. So they get on the run to face Houston, so hey, there's a bounce back opportunity here. But if they lose and the Chargers win, I think that would jump them. I think that, did they play together this year? I think they did, and Pittsburgh won. In that case, then Pittsburgh has the 5th seed locked up. But either way, they need to have some momentum going into the playoffs, because if they don't, that's going to be even more vulnerable. It's going to be questionable, and it's going to make it that much harder to win. It's just going to make it infinitely harder. There's not much more I can say about that. And then offensively, you just need to be able to do what you've been able to do all year long and just run the ball well, get the ball to George Pickens, get a couple deep shots down to Calvin Austin if you can, and maybe this Steelers team can do good enough to win. But it's all going to go down to this defense and if they can contain Joe Burrow. And right now, I simply don't have the confidence that they can do that. Moving on, this will be my 3rd best game of the week. It's the Carolina Panthers going to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Here's the thing. If you watched my last episode, you heard my rant about the Falcons organization and this coaching staff absolutely failing their players. And while the Falcons, I have them winning this game because they have a lot to fight for. They're obviously trying to fight for a playoff spot, and hopefully, the Bucs will lose and they can overtake them and win the division. But that right there is the problem. Right now, you don't have control over your own destiny as if you're Atlanta. You simply have to win your game and hope that Tampa loses. And that's not a position you want to be in. And the Falcons wouldn't be in that position, honestly, if they had played Kirk and they didn't bench him. Genuinely, I think the Falcons would be in the playoffs right now and be leading the division. And they'd still have to win, of course. But if they won, they'd be in and there'd be no questions about it. But we have to have questions about it because they chose to bench Kirk and started Michael Penix, who has played mostly well in his first 2 starts, and I expect him to continue that here in this game as well. But you are going up against the Carolina Panthers, who are an improved team here in the second half of the year. This is no easy slouch of a game because while the Panthers have had some stinkers here in the second half of the year, they've had some great performances too. And for Atlanta, you cannot be complacent and you cannot afford, if you want to make a if you want to make the playoffs, you cannot afford to get complacent because if you get upset by Carolina, your playoff hopes are donezo. They're done. They're done. Even if the Bucs lose, it would be done because the Bucs have a 1-game lead. Well, actually, no, yeah, because you would finish 8-9, and the Bucs would finish 9-8. So if you lose, you're out. The only way you're getting in is if you win and Tampa loses. So this is a must-win game for the Atlanta Falcons. But given their players, given their coaches, despite the rant that I went on about them in the last episode, they have the pieces there to win this game, and I think they should. And if they don't, that's going to be an even bigger problem. Moving on to this next one, Texans traveling to Tennessee to face Titans. Texans are winning this game. The Titans, they have the number 2 overall pick in the draft. They're probably going to tank it out. At this point, I don't know why you would try and squander the 2nd overall pick. But, who knows? They're in the Oilers throwbacks. Maybe they decide they want to open up a can of, whooping butt if they want to. But I'd highly doubt that at this point. But for Houston, though, Houston's in the playoffs. The AFC South has been locked up for the past 4 weeks or so. And the Texans are a mid-football team. They do not look good. And they need to play their starters, which they're going to do. They need momentum going into the playoffs. I know you're facing a 3-13 Titans team. But any type of momentum where your offense and defense can play well, you're going to need it. Especially if more than likely you're going to face Pittsburgh. That's the thing. Pittsburgh is going to be going, theoretically, if Pittsburgh loses to Cincinnati and then you win against Tennessee, your odds of beating Pittsburgh at home are exponentially greater because the momentum will be on your side. You'll be at home. It's a favorable situation for you. So the Texans have to have a good performance on offense and a good performance on defense, especially on offense. With Tank Dell now being out, having to figure stuff out, this offensive line being horrible, any type of success, you need to take it and you need to do well with it. Because even if Houston wins this game, which regardless they're going to win, if they have a bad performance and they struggle to beat Tennessee, it's going to be even worse for them going into playoff time, and they're probably going to be a wild card exit, which is crazy because I said Pittsburgh, if they lose, is going to be a wild card exit. So at this point, it's going to be a battle of who's going to be worse with no momentum. So if Houston can get momentum, at least they could be in the conversation of possibly competing and beating Pittsburgh. If that is to happen, I'm not entirely sure on the playoff seeding and where everything's going to go. This is what I think it's going to happen with my knowledge of the situation currently. But it doesn't change the fact that Houston needs to have momentum going into the playoffs. And if they don't, then there is going to be problems. Next up on the list, the Giants traveling to Philly to face the Eagles. Another quick one. Philly is going to win this game regardless. I know the Giants put up 45 last week, but you went up against the Colts. You're now going against Philly's defense. Yes, Philly's going to be resting their starters. And for any of you that pick Saquon Barkley to break the single season rushing record, he's sitting, he's not playing, and I placed a bet on Prize Picks, and I saw like a whole bunch of people had placed bets on Saquon Barkley, and so anyone that went on Prize Picks and bet that he was going to have more than whatever the amount, oh my gosh, I can't speak. If anyone picked that he was going to have more yards than what the player prop showed, sorry guys, you're cooked. You're cooked because he's not playing. I don't know. Would you still win if you pressed it less because he's not playing? Would that happen, or would that just lose because he's not playing at all? I don't know how that would work. That's interesting. But I didn't place a bet on Saquon Barkley because I wasn't sure, and so I'm good. I am good. But the Eagles, better coaching, better players, better depth. They should win this game, no problem, as they continue to get healthy, rest up, and be prepared for the playoffs. Next up, we got the Jaguars going to Indy to face the Colts. This game is a 50-50 for me, personally, because the Jaguars have a little bit more momentum than Indianapolis. But Indianapolis, I guess, is the better team. If Joe Flacco plays, I'm more inclined to believe that the Colts will win just because of their offense alone. And Jacksonville's offense, I mean, I expect them to do some good things against this Colts defense, but I don't know, it's a 50-50. Just give me the Colts to win this game, honestly. I think they're better if Joe Flacco plays, but Jacksonville could win this game too, honestly. It's a battle of one team that's just not very good and then one team that's horrible. So take your pick. Either one's out of the playoff race at this point. There's not very much excitement for either team going into this game. And then you got the Commanders and the Cowboys. This game has a little bit more excitement because the Commanders are going to be playing their starters, and they're going to win this game, by the way, because of that. But the Cowboys have been one of those teams that have been better in the second half of the season. Now, without CeeDee Lamb last week, the offense took a major dip in production, but the Commanders' defense is not that good. And last week against the Falcons, they tried to lose that game actively, it felt like. So, for the Dallas Cowboys, just do what you can, play your best. And for the Commanders, this defense specifically needs to have a good performance. They need to. And without CeeDee Lamb, you should. Rico Dowdle is probably going to do what he wants. But even then, you should still set out to stop him. Because there's no serious threat at receiver without CeeDee Lamb. So your defense should be able to contain aging veteran Brandon Cooks and then a bunch of other guys behind him. But the Commanders, if they want to do anything, if they want to make noise in the playoffs, this defense has to gain some momentum. After the performance that they had against Atlanta, that was very, very worrisome. If you have a good performance against Dallas that does not have anything good on their offense outside of Rico Dowdle now, okay, you can go into the playoffs and feel a little bit more comfortable. But God forbid, if Dallas comes out swinging, for whatever reason, there's a possibility that they come out swinging here. And if the Cowboys come out swinging on offense against this Commanders defense, then there will definitely be some cause for concern for the Commanders come playoff time. But right now, they're in control. They're going to play their starters, which will give them a big edge. And with their starters going against this Cowboys team without any offensive players, they should have a better game. So that'll be the part to watch in this one. But the Commanders are easily winning this football game. And moving down, we got the Bears traveling to Green Bay to face the Packers. Give me the Packers. I don't know if the Packers are resting their starters or not, but either way, the Packers are going to win. They're a better football team, better coached football team. Chicago literally has no reason to win this game. They have no juice. They have no energy. The season has been over for the Bears ever since Thanksgiving. So, sorry, Packers are winning this game. That was easy. That was quick, and we'll move on and check this out. You guys aren't ready. Oh, I just hit my microphone. You guys aren't ready for this transition. Okay, I don't know. I don't know how well that turned out. I really have no idea how that turned out. I had thoughts about doing like a traditional, just throw my logo on the screen and do that whoosh sound effect that I do. But I wanted to be a little bit creative with it and make it, seem a little bit more authentic instead of, forced. But if you guys didn't watch the intro, I'm just doing this to see what it looks like, just to get rid of the video and audio falling out of sync. Because the first half of videos do pretty well in that regard. Like, they stay in sync fine. It's just at the tail end of it, it starts to really get bad. So hoping like halfway through, just do a pop, just do some type of transition and we'll be okay. So I'm excited. Moving on to, we'll just continue on with this momentum. The fifth best game of the week for me is the Saints traveling to Tampa to face the Buccaneers. Now the Bucs are going to win this game, but why is this the fifth best game of the week? First off, I love Tampa Bay. Obviously, they're the hometown team where I live. I'm not a fan of the Bucs, but I do love the Bucs, and I grew up watching them. So, fair enough. I do have some emotional attachment with the team, but I wouldn't say I'm a fan of them. However, the Bucs should win this game, but watch out. Watch out. Not because this Saints team is going to do anything spectacular or crazy, but something tells me that this Saints team is going to put up more of a fight than I think people are expecting. This doesn't feel like a trap game per se, like it felt like with Dallas, but this feels like a game that's going to be closer than what it should be. And for Tampa, all you got, you control your own destiny now. You win this game, you get into the playoffs. And I said it last week, Tampa is one of the best 7 teams in the NFC. Even if they don't make it, I still believe that. In Tampa, on any given day, if they decide to wake up and choose violence, they can absolutely destroy their opponents. And looking at how the Saints have lost these past couple of games, they lost to the Raiders. They've lost, I can't remember who else they lost to. I can't remember what it was the week before in week 16. But the Saints have not looked very good. But as I said, it's a divisional rivalry. It's probably going to be closer than what I'm expecting, because nothing gets more interesting than a team that wants to play spoiler. If that's a weird thing, because most obviously players and coaches, they play it hard every week to win because players are looking for contract incentives. They're probably on an expiring contract and hoping to put another good game on the field, another good round of tape, so they can go find a new team and get a good contract. So there's a lot of reasons why players are playing hard. They're playing to win. Same for coaches. But nothing gives you more motivation for a team like the New Orleans Saints to play spoiler and knock your rival out of the playoffs. Now, if the Falcons win and the Bucs lose, they'll be out. But if Atlanta loses, then it won't matter. Their spot in the playoffs is punched in. But for the sake of Tampa and for the sake of, for simplicity and to do what you need to do, just beat the New Orleans Saints. It shouldn't be that hard. But like I said, this game is going to be closer than what I expect it to be. Even though the Panthers and Falcons game, I almost put that on this list. There's an opportunity. Oh, I did. They're number 3. Duh. But either way, it still applies. It still applies. This is no easy slouch of a game, and you cannot afford to get complacent in the final game of the year. But considering Tampa dropped 51 on them last time, and New Orleans will probably be running Spencer Rattler at quarterback, this should be a game that Tampa should wake up and choose violence. If they do that, that remains to be seen, but this is a game that Tampa should definitely win for sure. Next up, we got the Bills traveling to New England to face the Patriots. The Bills are going to be rushing their starters. They have locked up the number 2 seed in the AFC. Even if Buffalo why am I saying even if? They're not even if. There's no even if about this, because with the Bills backups, they're probably still going to beat the New England Patriots. But for New England, you got to be careful. Obviously, the players and the coaches, as I've disclosed, are always going to play to win. No team, no players, no coaches try and tank. But if New England wins this game, they lose the number 1 overall pick. I don't know how far they drop, but it could knock them out of the running for Travis Hunter. So for the New England Patriots fans, you're probably rooting for your team to lose. You finish with the number 1 overall pick. You can get Travis Hunter. Boom, and we can figure all that out there, and we'll talk more about it as the offseason rolls along. But there is a chance that New England does beat the backup Bills team. There's a chance it happens. I'm not going to rule it out. But in my opinion, a backup Bills team is better than the current New England Patriots team. I expect the Bills to win this game. Moving on to the Chargers at the Raiders. The Chargers are going to win this game, most definitely, but the Raiders have played well these past couple of games. Sure, they've won 2 games in a row, and they have knocked themselves out of getting a quarterback. They have screwed themselves out of that in typical Raider fashion. But for this game, specifically between these 2 teams, the Chargers are going up against a better Raiders team that has some momentum on their side. So here's your opportunity to play well against a bad football team and go into the playoffs with even more momentum than you already have. You beat the Patriots last week 40-7. I expect a similar performance this week, because the Raiders, even though they've won 2 straight games, they're not a good football team. They beat Jacksonville and they beat New Orleans. This really shouldn't change much for the Chargers, but it is notable that the Raiders have won 2 straight games, so they could potentially give the Chargers a little bit of trouble. But it shouldn't be too much trouble. I think the Chargers win this game easily and go into the playoffs at 11-6. Next up, we have the 49ers traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals, an NFC West showdown where both teams have had disappointing seasons. I have the Cardinals winning this game. I think they're better. They're not obviously as injured. And right now, I just kind of believe in Arizona right now. Kyler Murray, I think, is better than Brock Purdy right now. As crazy as that sounds, the records are about the same, but Kyler Murray, actually, I take that back. I take that back. Is Kyler Murray really better than Brock Purdy right now? Is that legitimate? I don't know. They're probably about the same. Either way, they're both teams that are missing the playoffs, but right now the Cardinals are holistically a better football team, and considering that the 49ers defense just left the freaking building against the Lions, the Cardinals offense with Trey McBride, is James Conner playing? I don't know if James Conner's playing. I know he got hurt last week. I don't know if he does, but I still expect Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. to play well. And I ultimately think the Cardinals are going to win this game. The 49ers could. They very much could. I believe that. It's a possibility. But right now, I just have more faith in seeing the Arizona Cardinals winning this football game. Then we'll move on to another interesting one where the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs will be traveling to Denver to face the Broncos. The Broncos are going to win this game, not because I think that's not just because I think they're going to win, but Denver has to win this game because the Bengals are right behind you, and I have the Bengals winning. So if that happens and Denver loses, the complete disaster collapse at the end of the year would be complete. But for Denver, you are in control of your own destiny, just like Tampa. All you got to do is beat the backup Kansas City Chiefs team, and you're in. That's all you got to do. They're led by Carson Wentz. We'll see how he does in a Chiefs uniform. But I'm more concerned with how this team is going to play in the fourth quarter. Because going up against the backup Chiefs team, they're still going to give you trouble. They're still going to give you trouble because they're a well-coached football team. So for Denver, you cannot do what you did in the past 2 weeks, and at the end of games, your offense and defense, especially your defense, fall flat. You can't allow that to happen. You're at home. Everything is in your path. Everything is in your control and in your benefit to win this game and make the playoffs. I want to say it's as easy as just don't screw it up, but with the Kansas City Chiefs, you never know. And with how the Denver Broncos have played these past couple of weeks, they can't afford for that to happen again. And if it happens again and Denver loses and they miss the playoffs, all offseason, I said it last episode, we're going to be talking about how it was the surprise that ultimately never ended up being for people thought it would end up being, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that made much sense. I think you get it, because the Broncos were a surprise, and then everyone was like, oh yeah, wow, they're one game away from making the playoffs, and then 2 straight losses later, and if they lose again, that would be 3. They're not in the playoffs, and it'll be another year without making it, which would be very, very unfortunate for them. Moving on to the third to last game of the week, my number 4 best game of the week, the Seahawks traveling to LA to face the Rams. I have the Rams winning this game, but here's the deal. The Seahawks, they just got eliminated. They're still going to be playing. They're still going to be fighting. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And for the Rams need some offensive momentum going into the playoffs. You beat the 49ers 13-6. You beat the Cardinals 13-9. You cannot have another game like that where you're dragging an opponent through the mud, and the only thing producing on your offense is Puka Nacua. That cannot happen again. You need momentum where Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are playing well. Kyron Williams has to play well, and this defense has to continue what they've been doing and playing really sound football and not making mistakes. You cannot make any mistakes against this Seahawks team. Well, honestly, on offense and defense, which this team on tape has improved in a lot of ways, especially on their defensive line for Seattle. So the Rams, this is not going to be an easy game by any means, but they're going to have a better performance than they've had against the Cardinals and the 49ers if they want to make a run in the playoffs. This team is not the best roster. It's still pretty young. So if they're going to do anything in the playoffs, they're a team that's going to have momentum on their side. And if they don't have it, it's going to be hard to really buy into what they're going to do in the playoffs and do anything special. But if they do play well in this game, if they can whoop Seattle, then by all means, their success in the playoffs and how far they could go is completely on the table. But that starts with beating the Seattle Seahawks and offensively getting a good game in. And then the last Sunday game or afternoon game, the Dolphins traveling to New York to face the Jets. Dolphins are winning this game. They have more to play for. They'll probably win. Well, they'll win this game. Finished 9-8 was exactly where I had them going, so that would be a dub for me. But honestly, the Dolphins are a better football team. I don't know if Tua plays. I'm not entirely sure what his injury was against or before going into the Cleveland Browns game, but even then, I think the Dolphins win this game. The Jets have just been bad. They've been so bad. And there's no reason to me why the Dolphins should lose this game. And now we get to the best one. The best number one game of the week. The Vikings at the Lions. Season finale. Sunday Night Football. The winner of this game wins the NFC North and the number one seed in the conference. This game is going to be in freaking sane. There is no telling what this game is going to be. I mentioned it in the beginning of the episode. We'll pick up right where I left off from there. For Detroit, this defense has to get healthy as much as they can, because going up against the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold is probably playing the hottest he has ever had so far this year. He is playing out of his mind. Aaron Jones is playing well. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison are playing great. And right now, with this Lions defense, as injured as it is, they need all the help they can get, because the Vikings have a really good defense behind them. And for Detroit, this is the toughest defense they have faced all year long. And Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to be contained a little bit, because the Vikings by far have the best run defense in the NFL. So I expect Jared Goff to throw more passes. I expect Jamison Williams, Amon St. Brown, Sam Laporta. I don't know where Tim Patrick has been, but Tim Patrick needs to be back in this game and step up. The receiving game and passing game needs to step up in this game if they are going to win. Because if it's one thing that the Lions are built for, they are built to get into a shootout if they need to. But the thing is, it's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. And if your defense can get as many good players back as possible, and then offensively you can have some success, there's an avenue for the Lions to win this game. But just as much as the Lions can win, the Vikings could also win this game too, because their offense is going to do well against this Lions defense. And if this Vikings defense has a good game plan against Detroit, the Vikings will win this game. But ultimately what it comes down to is coaching. I think Dan Campbell, Guts Campbell, as I call him, I think his aggressiveness, his heart, and his drive, I think that's what's going to push this Lions team over the edge. Because every time this team has faced adversity, they've been able to overcome it. They have been able to rise above the flames set to them. So give me the Lions to win this game, finish 15-2, and win the NFC North and clinch the number one seed in the National Football Conference. This game is going to be great. This game is going to be absolutely bonkers. I'm so excited for it. The last game of the year these past few years has always been a classic, and I expect this one to be probably the best one we've had in a long, long, long time. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. We finally made it. This is the final weekly preview regular preview of the regular season. I don't think I said that in the beginning of the episode, because we're going to be doing playoff previews too. We forgot about that. We got playoff football coming, right? So we got to do previews for that too. We can't skip out on that. But again, for the regular season, this will be the final weekly preview. In that regard, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Pushing those two buttons takes a couple seconds to do it. Helps me out a ton. I would really appreciate it if you would. Helps me get into the algorithm. It really helps me grow this channel more into just a hobby. Not that I, necessarily am looking for it to grow into a full-time thing. I would love for it to, but I would love for the show to get more recognition and to get more notoriety, because I love making this content. I love the content. I love my takes. I love that I'm getting to talk about football, and I want more and more people to share this passion with me. And I want to share more of this passion with you guys as well, likewise. So hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button helps me out a ton. Along with that, make sure to leave a comment down below about your thoughts, whatever fan of any team you are. Let me know your thoughts about what you think your team is going to do this week and what they could probably do in the playoffs if your team applies in that regard. And of course, make sure you share the video, whether you're sharing it on social media or you're talking about it with your friends and family, making sure anybody and everybody gets locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys twice a week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. This video, as a reminder, will be coming out on Thursday morning, not at 8 a.m., probably or maybe late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Whenever it's uploaded, it's going to drop, so it's going to be late at night. So most of you will probably end up seeing it in the morning anyways, but either way, that is what's going to happen. That is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for a great regular season. Thank you so much for a great 2024, for helping me grow this channel as to where it is right now. But this is not the end. It is only the beginning. And I will see you guys on Tuesday as we recap this final week of the NFL season. And as we go and look towards the NFL playoffs, that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you all next time.